A lot of meditation teachers say that you need to meditate every day to get results, but this is not true and it actually creates a boom or bust mentality. It also puts a lot of people off because they see this as a big commitment. Most people live busy, complicated lives. I'm sure you're the same. So they worry that they won't be able to fit a daily meditation practice in. And as a result, they just give up and don't bother doing anything at all. But the truth is, even if you meditate once per week, it's going to make a big difference to your life. So this is just one myth about meditation that many people still believe, but there are a lot more. And that's going to be the theme of this episode. We're going to be taking a look at 5 meditation myths that many people still believe that need to be busted right now. Hey there and welcome to the Stress Less Living podcast. My name is Stephen Burns and I've been a practicing coach, trainer and hypnotherapist for 25 years. Each week I'll share easily digestible bite-sized ideas that you can immediately put into practice so that you can live a more harmonious and balanced life. Because life is challenging, but whatever we encounter, we always have a choice. We can take the easy route or the hard route, the low stress way or the high stress way. Well, the Stress Less Living podcast is about always looking for the easy routes in life, the low stress ways to accomplish your goals, get more of what you want, and ultimately live a happy and more effortless life. So if you're looking for the perfect antidote for the chaos of modern life, my friend, you are absolutely in the right place. Okay, let's get started. So myth number 1, the goal of meditation is to zone out. It's all about disconnecting. You've ever done yoga, you'll know that there are 2 different parts to any class. So the first is the physical practice. So this is where you do your downward dogs, your warrior poses, and all kinds of other cool stuff. And then you have your inner practice, and this is usually done at the end of a yoga session. So this is where you relax, you close your eyes, and you meditate, or you're supposed to meditate. So you get your wee mat out, you lie down, the teacher dims the lights, maybe they light a few candles, and then they take you through a guided meditation, which is nice, but there is a problem. The vast majority of people aren't really meditating. They're using it to zone out, to disconnect, to drift off to a galaxy far, far away. So maybe you've had a hard day at work or you're maybe a little bit sleep deprived, so you just lie back on your mat and you use the experience to totally disconnect from all of that, or sometimes you just use it to have a wee nap, a wee sleep. I've heard a few snores from the guy next to me in yoga class many times. And hey, that's fine, that is perfectly healthy, of course. We all need to disconnect from time to time, but that's not what meditation is all about. Real meditation, the kind that is powerful, is actually about the opposite. It's about connecting more with your experience, not less. It's where you're actively engaging your inner attention in a particular way. So I like to think of this as a soft focus. That's the kind of thing you're looking to create. You could also call this soft immersion. There's generally 2 different ways that we can focus on something. We can have a hard focus. So for example, if you're studying for an exam or working on a problem at work, something that involves you concentrating intensely on it. That would be a hard focus because it requires a lot of effort, a bit of intensity, and the sensation of it can be quite harsh. So a good gauge is that we often feel tired after focusing on something in a hard way. But a soft focus is where we're focusing and relaxing at the same time. It feels like we're immersed in whatever it is that we're doing, but we're not having to force it or use a lot of intense effort. So the analogy I like to use is, it's a little bit like if you were watching a great movie at the cinema, so something super gripping or thrilling. So when that's the case, 2 or 3 hours can go past, but it feels like 10 minutes. You've been so immersed in the movie and the characters that you've completely lost track of time. And when you're watching a great movie like this, it doesn't feel like you're having to put a ton of effort in just to keep up. You're giving it your full attention, of course, but you're so absorbed that the whole thing just rolls along nicely. So that's a soft focus, and it's very similar to what you're looking to do with meditation. And this state is immensely useful for a number of reasons. It helps create stillness, a sense of calm, it creates more self-awareness, it improves the relationship you have with yourself, It can be used to create all manner of positive psychological changes in our life. And it can also be used as part of a spiritual practice as well, if that's the kind of thing that you're into. But only if you use it to connect with your experience in this way, rather than just zoning out and disconnecting. So meditation is not about drifting off to a galaxy far, far away. It's the opposite. It's about connecting more with powerful states of mind in the deeper parts of yourself. So that's meditation myth number 1. Myth number 2 is when you meditate, your mind is switched off. Your goal is to stop all thoughts and completely clear your mind. Again, a complete myth. So a lot of people think that the goal of meditation is to stop thinking. I'm sure you've heard of that many times. So they sit down with their meditation app, they've had a super busy day, they grab their headphones and I've got to meditate, and they attempt to do it, but because they've got so many thoughts going through their mind, they think that they are failing. So they wrongly conclude that meditation clearly is not for them because they can't stop the thoughts. So this is a totally unfair and inaccurate expectation to place on yourself. It's just not real. Because when you have no thoughts and your brain is essentially switched off, that's something else. That's called death. Hopefully, it goes without saying, that's not the goal of meditation. Because the reality is, it doesn't matter who you are, thoughts will always come and go. And you just want to accept that, observe the process, and then allow them to pass. So your aim should never be to stop all thoughts, but rather what you're looking to do is you're looking to create a sense of stillness. And this is the foundation of most powerful meditations. When you create stillness, that's when your mind and your body gets this deep rest, and you open yourself up to experiencing a wonderful sense of serenity, tranquility, and sometimes even a feeling of bliss. So there's a great book I'd recommend. I'll include a link to it in the show notes, and it's called Stillness is Key by Ryan Holiday. And one of the things he talks about in the book is that if you look across all disciplines, so like politics, sport, athletics, the arts, science, business, you name it, the top performers, the ones who stay in the game for a long time, all have this ability to create a sense of stillness. For example, in sport, the top athletes all have the ability to go into this quiet zone that allows them to perform under pressure. Or in business, it can be pretty tough. Times can be good, but times can be difficult. So you have to make decisions from a place of clarity. So one specific example he gives in the book is of President Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So he would regularly go out to the White House Rose Garden, they would go for long swims, he even had like a special rocking chair in the Oval Office, and all of this was designed so that he could create this sense of inner calm and serenity and think clearly so he could make the right decisions. But even if we go further afield, if you look at all major religions and philosophies, they all talk about the importance of this state of mind. In Stoicism, they have something called apatheia. In Buddhism, they have upaka. Muslims talk about aslama. The Hebrews talk about hishtavat. And Christianity talks about equanimous. I've probably butchered a few of those names, but I'm sure you get the picture. But they all translate to the same thing, and that is a sense of stillness. And from that stillness, so many amazing things can become possible. It allows us to think clearly, to see the whole chessboard rather than get obsessed with unnecessary details, to make tough decisions, manage our emotions, identify the right goals to go for, handle high-pressure situations, maintain good relationships, build good habits, and the list goes on and on. So don't buy into this myth that meditation is about stopping all your thoughts. It's more about creating a sense of stillness, or certainly that's the foundation. Hey there, if you are enjoying this episode and you'd like to learn more about the fundamentals of meditation, then I have a video course that you can enrol on for free as a podcast listener. So this is normally a paid course, but as someone who listens to the podcast, you can enrol for free using the discount code in the show notes. So if you want to check out that, like I said, I'll include a link to that free meditation course in the show notes and all the information that you need. So that's myth number 2. Myth number 3, when you meditate, you have to do it in the lotus position. Now, if you're not sure what the lotus position is, just do a quick Google search and you'll see an awkward looking seated pose that you can only really do if you have decent flexibility. So this one is not explicitly stated, but it is implied over and over again. If you do a Google image search for meditation, you'll get a ton of rather esoteric people, and pretty much all of them will be meditating in the lotus position. And the reason that this is the case is because apparently it allows you to remain motionless and free from distraction for extended periods of time. Now, I don't know how your flexibility is, mine's is not too bad, but when I try to sit in the lotus position for any length of time, the exact opposite is true. I'm rolling about like an idiot trying to balance myself. I start getting cramp in my quads, and it's so distracting, there's just no way I can meditate. And I think this is the case for a lot of people. Some people have great flexibility of the hips, of course, but many others, especially over a certain age, are never going to be able to do it in this position. And I don't know why it's become so linked to meditation, but it's just not necessary at all. So on that point, you're maybe asking the question, what is the best position to meditate in? Well, that really depends on you. For me, I like to sit on a chair, and ideally I position myself slightly back but not reclined. That might work for you, or you might want to go for something else. I even have like a special meditation chair that I use, and over time this then becomes like a trigger. The feelings of meditation become linked to that chair, so it speeds up the process. When I sit in it now, because I've meditated in it so many times, I can start to feel myself going into the state without really doing much. It's become an anchor. So that works for me, but you want to experiment and see what works for you. What I would say is, though, I'd recommend that you don't do it lying down. It's not impossible, but lying flat like that is often linked to sleep. Unless you're a vampire and you sleep standing up, of course. But I'm going to work from the premise that you're not a flesh eater, you are a normal human being. But when we meditate lying down, it's all too easy to fall asleep or just zone out. And if you remember from the first myth, powerful meditation is not about zoning out, it's about focusing in with more of that soft focus. So my recommendation would be to do it sitting up, choose a specific chair and stick with it. Don't make it harder than what it needs to be, trying to bend your legs into unnatural positions. You don't have to do it in the lotus position. So that's myth number 3. Myth number 4, you have to meditate every day for it to be effective. So I've seen a few meditation teachers say that in order to get their program to work properly, you need to meditate every day. In fact, I heard one meditation teacher say that you have to do it twice a day. And I think the reason why they do this is to create commitment in their students, in their program. And that commitment can then often lead to greater results. So that is fair enough. However, this often ends up putting people off because it's such a big commitment. Most people live busy, complicated lives. So they worry that they won't be able to fit in a daily meditation practice. So they just give up and don't bother doing anything at all. And it also creates a boom or bust mentality. People who are new to meditation start thinking, well, if I miss a day or two, then I'll lose all the benefits. The whole game is up. And again, this leads to them not even starting or giving up after the initial enthusiasm wears off. And this is not helpful. Now, obviously, the more that you meditate, the better it's going to be. You will get greater benefits. But even if you just meditate once a week, it's going to benefit your life in so many different ways. So one of the things I recommend in my meditation program is that you want to aim for 3 times per week. For most people, even if they live busy lives, this is totally achievable. And if that's too much, just start off once per week and then build from there. Because by starting off lower like this, you build momentum, and that momentum often encourages you to meditate more because you're enjoying it and you're starting to get some benefits. You're not doing it out of duty, you're doing it because you want to do it. It's become a pleasure that you like to indulge in rather than a chore that you need to do. So there's a great book, if you're interested in the psychology behind this approach, there's a great book called Mini Habits by Guise. So again, I'll include a link to this in the show notes. And the main premise of the book is that if you want to build a habit, it's better starting off small through mini actions rather than trying to do something loads over a short space of time. And the reason why this works is because a lot of the motivation we feel comes from taking action. We often think that when we're looking to build a habit or change a behaviour in some way, we need all the required motivation up front to build that habit. But that's actually not the way it works in reality. A lot of the motivation comes from taking action itself. When we do something, that creates a bit of a buzz inside of us, and we then use that buzz to fuel our next action, and so on and so forth. So it's much better just to do something, even if that something is small. It will give you more motivation to then start to ramp things up later on. So like I said, 3 times a week is fantastic. If you can do more, then great. But even if you're struggling to do 3 times, once per week will still bring benefits, and you'll most likely find that doing it once per week will make you want to do it more. So that's myth number 4, and myth number 5 is when you stop meditating, you'll lose all the benefits. Now the thing is, there is a little bit of truth to this. Some people report that by using meditation, their anxiety and stress all but disappear. But then when they stop meditating for a couple of months, the anxiety starts to creep back in. So this can happen sometimes, but I want to suggest that the reason it happens is because you're not using meditation in a particular way. You're missing a key component. That you're using meditation more as a coping mechanism and not as a tool for creating positive changes in your life. You want to use it like a laser beam to rewire your brain and create specific positive shifts in your life. So when you use it in this way, you get change that does actually stick, even when you stop meditating, because you're working on creating new connections, new neural pathways inside your brain. You know, there's a lot of research into what happens inside the brain when we meditate. And one of the findings is that when we meditate, the brain becomes more plastic. It becomes malleable. A lot of people think that the brain is 100% fixed and rigid, but it's absolutely not. The study of neuroplasticity has shown us that the brain changes shape over time depending on what we expose it to and what we focus on. And this accelerates rapidly when we meditate. The brain becomes more plastic, a little bit like how our brains used to be when we were kids. And it becomes so much easier to make new connections and new learnings. So when you're in that state, it's an ideal opportunity to make some changes. So when you start viewing meditation in this way, it opens up a whole new world for you. It's incredible. So one simple way to do this, if you're wondering, is to meditate with an intention in mind. So you can think of something that you would like to change. So say, for example, you want to be happier, feel calmer at work, or maybe you want to increase confidence in a specific area of your life. And you want to take a piece of paper, or you can do it on your tablet or your phone if you like, and you can just jot down some details about what that change would be like. You can be really specific about what it would look like, what it would sound like, and what it would feel like. And you want to phrase this description in the positive. And then what you want to do is, once you've done that, you want to summarize it into a single sentence. So if you took that entire change, all the details that you've written down there, and just summarize it in one single sentence, what would that one single sentence be? And then when you've got that, write that down on a piece of paper and then have it handy next to you when you meditate. And then when you do meditate, once you get into that wonderful place of stillness, you want to just look down at the piece of paper and reflect on everything that sentence means to you. And what this does is it starts to rewire the brain to include that positive change in your experience. This is like magic, but it's super simple to do. There's obviously a lot more to creating change using meditation, but that's just a simple thing that you can try out. So there we have it, 5 meditation myths that need to be busted ASAP. So number 1, the goal of meditation is to zone out, to disconnect. This is not true. It's about connecting more. It's about creating that soft focus. Number 2, when you meditate, your mind is switched off. The goal is to stop all your thoughts and completely clear your mind. Again, not true. It's more about creating stillness. And this tends to be the foundation of powerful meditation. Myth number 3, when you meditate, you have to do it in the lotus position. No, you don't have to bend your legs into an uncomfortable position. You want to pick something that is good for you. I recommend sitting up, slightly back but not reclined, and you want to avoid lying down because it's too easy to drift off or potentially even fall asleep. Myth number 4, you have to meditate every day for it to be effective. Again, not true. Obviously, the more that you do it, then the greater range of benefits you experience. But if you do it 3 times a week, or potentially even just 1 time a week, then it's going to make a positive difference to your life. And myth number 5, when you stop meditating, you lose all the benefits. Again, this can be true if you view meditation as a coping mechanism, but I want to encourage you to think about it as an opportunity to create changes inside your brain, to rewire your brain in such a way that you start to experience positive shifts in your life. When you approach meditation in this way, the vast majority of the benefits do stick. So that is us for this episode. Hopefully that helped clear up some of the many misconceptions of meditation. So if you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you're feeling especially kind, I would love it if you could leave a review. It really does help. So thank you once again for listening, and I'll speak to you in the next episode.